Thank you everyone for joining us. With me is Sandeep, the founder of CloudX Lab, which is an incredible AI, ML, and various different software skill training company. Now, Sandeep sir over here has been associated with software, with product development, with working around AI and ML for a very long time, to a point where I think he's one of the very few really well qualified people to, train you for how to actually go about building your software and your products. So, Sandeep sir, can you give us a quick intro on CloudX Lab?
All right. Thank you, Nikhil. That was, too flattering for me. Okay. So, at Cloudx Lab, basically what we are doing is we are trying to gamify learning.
Mm-hmm.
Gamify in the sense that if you look at the difference between playing, right, and learning, there is a, very, very thin line. Okay. If you okay, I'm going a little too philosophical, but I think this is something that I want to say very closely. Simple question. Like if you see a 2 year old, they will start playing with even shoes, right? And they
Mm-hmm.
start playing. The purpose
Yep.
is to learn the dynamics of things around us,
Okay.
right? Learn the dynamics of things around us. And that's why the kid basically plays, right? So the purpose of playing was to learn. The problem that happened was that the way playing happens is anything that is giving the feedback is called quick feedback turns into a game. If there is a wall, if there is a wall that you're pushing,
Okay.
which is not making any movement, that's not fun anymore, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right,
True.
right.
Yeah.
And when you don't see a reaction feedback, that becomes not a game, right? It's a boring thing. So similarly, what we did at Cloudx Lab is that we built this feedback loop really close. Okay, the shorter the feedback loop, the better
Mm-hmm.
is the learning, and the more
Okay.
it feels like a game. Like for example, if you take a course on say Python, it asks you define this variable, define this function, do this, do that, and you will continue to do that. And these are small shots of exercises. Okay, and that will basically create a learning loop, and you'll continue to do it. And trust me, complex things like learning Linux has been made so smooth that you'll finish the entire course in like 45 minutes and you'll say, wow, you did not take a stop. Usually, if
The,
you, yeah,
the reason I opened my eyes wide suddenly was because I have always wanted to learn something like
okay,
this. And I don't
okay,
know, I've just not found the right sort of, I
okay,
don't know, like I've never found that, like as you mentioned, that it ended up becoming more often than not, it's like I'm just pushing a wall. Kuch
yeah,
bhi nahi ho
yeah.
raha.
Yeah, yes, 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 yes. So this is exactly the reason. See, human in general is very smart. You don't
Okay,
need to feed everything to everybody. Okay.
okay.
What you have to do is you have to avoid few things. Okay, in learning. I've been studying the human behavior. The great part about job at Cloudx Lab is that we are teaching people to teach machines. Okay. And we're using the analytics to understand human behavior, that how can we teach people? And the great part about both the things is that teaching machines and teaching people have become very similar as of today. Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
okay. That's a
So
very nice way of putting it.
yeah, that's a very interesting observation. So you don't need to teach everything to the individual. If you are
Okay.
teaching everything to the individual, what happens is that they start memorizing. They start overfitting. In machine learning term, we call it overfitting. Okay, and
Mm-hmm.
and you'll see that these arguments are exactly identical in compute in teaching people to and teaching machines, right? So when we are teaching somebody, you have to be, you have to avoid these few things, like we call them extreme conditions. One, the learner leaving your course. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
okay, that's a terminal condition. When somebody left the course, that means you will no longer be able to teach them, and therefore the whole purpose is lost, right? Like for example, if I want to teach you, let's say, guitar. Okay. And I start with, make you grill through all the notes, this, that, and right, and you will lose your enthusiasm and joy, right? Because you're not getting a feedback. While the way it should be taught is that I give you a guitar, okay, and you start strumming along, and you're getting feedback, and then I'm slightly nudging you. And that's exactly how we teach machines, how we teach people. And that's how there's a similarity. We don't let
Okay.
them fall into a pit or go to the extreme conditions. So that's a very important part in case of learning, and that's what we are doing at Cloudx Lab. Every day we are improving, looking at every question very closely. And instead of saying that this question, people don't want to solve hard problems, we want to break down a hard question into maybe 10 questions and let them enjoy the journey of solving questions. That's something that we have worked hard, and that's where we are going to do a lot in going forward. Every part that we have, with starting with Linux, Python, SQL, every part is gamified with the with the way that the person should not fall back. They should basically keep on moving, because if the slope of learning is steep, then also people run away. If it is too flat, then also people get bored. And
Hmm,
that's
hmm, hmm,
exactly something we are building, and we are working every day. Have a full team who is basically looking closely at every question, analytics of every question, and then every day fine tuning the language, fine tuning the test cases, changing the question, breaking it down, making it more human, and so on. So that's something that we are working on. That's something very different about Cloudx Lab being in EdTech, because we are not really focused on just teaching. Like, I can't really teach somebody by saying, like, right now, in this discussion itself, I might have said 100 things, right? And the user will only walk away with probably 5 things. So we can't
hmm.
really teach somebody just like this. You have
Yep.
to probably have like nice Q&A, like nice exercises to drill it down, and then keep the journey going. And that's what we are doing at Cloudx Lab. And this is why this is a fantastic time, because we have never understood what it means by learning. For some people, learning meant memorization. Okay. Like, oh, I know GK, I have studied the entire book. But now in machine learning, we have a term for that phenomena. We call it overfitting. Okay. Yes. And the term bias, the word bias, was not that well understood before. Okay.
Hmm, 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 hmm.
Mathematically, we are able to say that this is bias, and this is memorization. We are able to define it mathematically. Now this is a time where we're learning what is learning.
Hmm. Understood.
Uh,
So just to so I will definitely have I will be asking you a lot more questions about CloudX Lab as
okay.
we go forward.
Okay.
But just to give a you know an understanding to our viewers, can you take us through your journey from where did you start and how did that end up culminating in you building out CloudX Lab?
Okay. Should I start from my childhood, or should I start with college?
Whatever you are comfortable sharing, because I mean I honestly feel that certain characteristics, certain traits, certain sort of things which have made you who you are today would have started as early as childhood, as long as you can remember it. So I would love to understand, right,
Yeah.
your journey and how it culminated to you building out CloudX Lab.
Right. So, all right. Let me just. I've never said it in public, but I like to say it. Okay. So, I was born in 1980, and
Okay.
I was born in a very tiny village,
Okay.
and did farming till my 12th class. Okay.
Wow.
Okay. And I'm good with farming. I know how to ride a tractor, and
Wow. Okay.
I know how to take care of cattle. And yes, I mean it. And lived on a farm and know how to survive on farm.
Okay.
And that's a great part about me, being from a village, that that you are alone, you are at your own. Okay. And you need to build those skills to survive, and I find it really really good. And that's how I have that learning of first 12 years was something that was incredible for me. Okay. And though none other from my village has been anywhere, nobody has gotten into any IIT or any place. And but I was lucky enough to have that passion for physics. So while I was farming, I would basically keep thinking about my physics questions from Erudov, and
Wow.
I'll spend a good time about it. And the great part about being from a village is that you don't get too distracted by friends, right?
There's
Yeah.
very little things to do there.
There's a lot of farming things to do, and you don't spend time in gossip, and you
Okay.
don't spend time in going for movie. The first movie I watched was in BTech first year in Roorkee.
Wow.
First movie
Wow.
in theater. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
Yes. And I mean, that's the beginning that I had. And
Hmm.
I went to college, and I joined chemical engineering. Not
Okay.
because I liked chemical, it's just because of
Hmm.
the branch I got chemical.
Hmm.
Okay. And we all know that in India, engineers do all kinds of things, no matter what is their branch.
Yeah. 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 The
Right?
specialization is just a tag. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it's more like a driving license, to be honest.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. All right. So
Yeah.
and chemical engineering, I mean, it gave me good time. And in
Mhm.
this first year, second semester, I started I I started with experimenting with myself a lot. Okay.
Mhm.
So even though the language I used at that point of time
Mhm.
was different from mainstream,
Mhm.
the clothes that I wore were not mainstream, but but I chose the courage over my skills or whatever, right? So I even stood for a small election in chemical engineering. Okay.
Okay.
And I won that, and then I started
Oh
running
wow.
yeah, running these courses in college from
Okay.
for we started with C++ course, and I
Mhm.
really enjoyed that course. Okay. So after that, I decided not to go home and stay back in summers in college.
Wow. Okay.
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 I started liking programming much. And everybody, was shocked that the only person in the whole first year who wants to stay in the college for the first time is very weird to everybody. So Dean and everybody, right? Dean and everybody is trying to convince me that I mean, no, I mean, why don't you go home and not stay here? We'll have to make arrangements for you and all that. And
Correct.
then I figured out that I can go to a professor, get a project, and using project I can stay back in college. So I figured that out.
Wow. Okay.
Okay. Yes. So what I feel that one thing that that I found very different and very when I think about everything about my life so far is that if you know the worst possible scenario, right? You have a very clear mind all the time. If you know the worst case scenario, you have a
Mhm.
very big thought clarity. And I had a very clear thought that okay, these guys are not going to shoot me. Okay, right? Professor is not going to shoot me, so why not ask them, right, to stay back?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
okay. So it's,
Absolutely.
it's
Yeah.
like that. It's like that. And basically, then in college, since I was from a bit different background, so I was not selected in any of the traditional groups like
Mhm.
music, singing. I didn't have any of the skills,
Mhm.
and so on. So then somebody asked, like, "Hey, which group are you in?" I said, "I'm not in any group. I'll create a
Mhm.
group." Okay.
Mhm.
So in
Mhm.
my fourth year, I created a group,
Okay.
and it's called Information Management Group. That group is like most active for last 20 years in the college. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. And that becomes, most of the people that you meet from IIT Roorkee who are
Mhm.
successful, chances are they are from that group.
Wow.
All
Nice.
right.
Okay.
So, like for example, you take Common Floor founders, Tribo founders, and many others, right? So there
So
are, yeah.
I actually want to take you back a little bit before you go forward. So coming from a village, moving into an IIT Roorkee, getting exposed to pretty much all sorts of people coming to IIT Roorkee, right? Like you're talking about, one is you're talking about the cream of the crop. You're talking about people who are incredible engineers. Second is you're talking about, a lot of them coming from urban areas, a lot of them coming from
Right,
well-off
right,
families.
right,
A lot.
right.
You have that incredible mix. So I want to understand this. So how did you cope with that?
Okay, okay. So that's a beautiful thing about IITs. Had I been in a private college, I would have lived with a depression. The wonderful thing about people in my class, I really like the batch and everybody, is that they come from all kinds of backgrounds. Okay,
Okay.
right now I'm telling you that my background was this. And when I met people who are like maths Olympiad champions and amazing people, when I looked at their background, they were far more interior than mine, and
Oh
and,
wow.
and you have like people who have really good backgrounds, as well as people all sorts of background, and that's the amazing part about IITs, and
Mm-hmm.
and the other great part what I found in my college is that the people respected each other. Okay, we all knew that these guys are good. They are at least good at the basic things. Maybe they
Mm-hmm.
haven't developed a social skill. They haven't been exposed to the mainstream and so on. But we had a huge respect for everybody. Though I stood for a small election and I had an opponent, even then I had a huge respect for the people who were everybody in the class, that these guys would be smart in some way or another. And
Absolutely.
that was a great thing about my class, and my class had been like amazingly supportive of each other so far. And the great part about at my time, one thing I want to say very clearly, I found that at my time there was no relative grading. It was basically percentage system. I went into University of Roorkee, which became to IIT Roorkee, and since it was not relative grading, people were more friendly to each other. There was no
Absolutely. Yeah.
competition. There was no competition.
They would end up wanting to work together, help each other rather than compete with each other.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's why most of the people that you will find is they're more cooperative as compared to the new generation, which is.
So it allowed you to cope. Having a very collaborative sort of incredible peer group allowed you to cope.
I mean,
And
my team classmates are like amazing people. Even today, some of them are IAS, some are heading defense somewhere in the government. All of them have been like amazingly supportive for me all the time.
Mhm.
Especially
Mhm.
even though knowing that hey, I'm not able to spend so much time in chemical engineering and I'm spending more time in computer science. They were all the time supportive, every time, every part. And I also keep that open heart for everybody who has been with me.
I
I
can
mean,
understand. I mean, as you mentioned, it formed who you are. So
yes,
I can completely understand why.
yes.
So you go ahead, you build out these C plus plus courses. Great. So you are telling me for 4 years you didn't go back home for 4 years?
No, I did not. I used to go
Wow.
on Diwali or Holi
Yeah,
for
yeah,
one
of
week
course.
or
Apart
so.
from the festivals, like
Uh, uh, uh,
you'd
yeah,
stay most of your summer vacation in the in the
yes,
college itself.
yes. I
And what
love.
would you do then? But like, what would you do? I mean,
Okay, okay. So we didn't have the computer ourselves at that point of time.
okay,
So we used
okay,
to use our central, computer center.
uh
Okay,
huh.
and by the fourth year, I had my own center. Okay.
Yes, yes, I remember. So yeah, I actually want you to tell us this story.
Okay.
So this was what gave you your first sort of entrepreneurial venture, you could say, right? In
Yeah.
college. So can you
Yeah.
tell us the story of that?
Yeah. So basically, what we did was a couple of seniors and us. We basically came up with the idea that hey, let's make the website for the college. Okay, because the existing website was really bad, and yeah, this is like 1999. Okay,
Wow. Okay.
okay. So and I was the only one who had learned Perl and build a web application that point of time. So we decided that we'll build the website. And then we got a department, we got a place where we could go and use the computers 24 by 7. And
Okay.
then we got a dedicated office for ourselves, right?
Wow.
And right, and that was, the cultural shift. Today I had a meeting with the coordinator, professor coordinator, that point of time, Vinod Kumar, and we were remembering that we established a culture. And there, right, we all we were like 20 members. So at that point of time, we went from hostel to hostel, explaining what we are trying to do. And we gathered all the people, we built the website, and then we started building these stupid things. Okay, we call them random things. Like, first I built the notice board. Everybody laughed at that notice board, everybody laughed at it, right? That notice board is there in our hostel. Why would we go to computer center to check that notice board, right? But today that notice board is the lifeline for many. Okay. Yes. Yes. And that became, that culture we established. And thanks to my other teammates at we call it IMG, Information Management Group, that we basically started experimenting with lots of ideas. And everybody was, coming up with ideas. We started giving summer Sura projects to people under us. Like me as a student, we are entering the projects for others. It was like
Wow.
amazing. And and that culture stayed there. And as we passed out, the next generation came, and so on. And now it's like a wonderful group of people, and it's just
Mhm.
keep improving, keep building systems. And we even came up with the radio, our own radio, and like
Wow.
internal Facebook and all of that. So yeah.
Wow.
And just
So
like,
basically, you helped establish pretty much the first incubator.
yes, yes, it was yeah. And the people that we used to just, go hunting for the talent in the 4 years. Okay,
Wow.
that's how we did it. And most of the people believed in that part, that they will. And nobody had a problem afterwards. Nobody had a problem staying in summers. Everybody would, stay in summers.
I mean, when you think about it, right?
Yes.
If there's something interesting to do,
Yeah.
I think logistics take care of themselves. Like if there's something interesting, if there's something exciting, more often than not, people want to do that. Like I've rarely found when you have something absolutely interesting and someone doesn't want to do it. Like
No, it takes stupidity in the beginning. It takes like
yep,
really crazy stupidity in the beginning. And that's something which I feel that in the beginning most of the things look stupid, but if you are
correct,
adamant enough on your stupidities, they turn into something fruitful, right? And or you have a
absolutely.
reason to believe in your stupidity. I had a very good reason to believe in my stupidities at that point of time. Okay.
So,
But
what was the reason, like, to believe in your own stupidities, in your
oh,
own experiments?
I don't know. I think it was something that since childhood I have been the kid around who people believed in. So I
Hmm.
always so I still wonder like why I always believed in my stupidities. And
Hmm.
probably it was like in my village everybody thought that I'm smart. My parents believed in me. And I think maybe because my parents believed in me, my parents, my elder brother, and everybody. So
Wow.
that's what caused me to believe that my stupidities are logic remaining to. Okay.
That's absolutely right. I mean, you may have stupid ideas, but for to get that one great idea, you need that sort of positivity and confidence to believe in your ideas. Like
Right, right,
so. Moving on, so you complete, your 4 years in IIT. You have an
yes.
incredible time. You experiment with so many different things. So what happens next? So what did
Okay,
you do after that?
so it was a pretty bad time for the recruitment and other things.
Hmm.
And um, not many people got job that year. I got job at D Shaw. It was
Hmm.
and there I joined as a, I joined there, and it was wonderful because
Hmm.
the kind of work that people were doing at D Shaw, even though it was a
Hmm.
financial company,
Hmm.
we were basically the Googles in terms of technology at that point of time.
Wow. Okay.
Right. Google's was not there. Google was not there. It was the highest paying company at that point of time. It was the last company to the campus. And
Wow. Okay.
Yes. I even went to there was a company called some random company who was not paying enough. I even went there, told them, "Hey, you're making a mistake by not hiring me." I had that kind of attitude, so I told them that. So but they still did not hire me. But luckily, I got the highest paying job. Luckily, and
Okay.
I would say that I started enjoying work at Disha. I started experimenting with huge amount of data, the kind of data I were processing or doing all kinds of churning around it. It used to take a week. I mean, it used to. We could not download it. We had to ship it from the New York to Hyderabad.
Yes. So, I mean, so for the audience, before the call, I actually had a conversation with Sandeep sir, and he was telling me that it was faster to ship hard disks than to use internet to download the data.
Not hard disk. It was tape drive that I mean.
Tape drive. Sorry.
Right. So those it sounds stupid, but you don't have a choice, right?
Correct.
So
Correct.
I mean, you can see that ship is faster than the electron, you see.
Wow.
So
And
the
this is
entire
back in 2002, guys. Just to give
yes,
some context.
yes, yes. It's like Newtonian mechanics fails when the speed of light comes in. Similarly, the most of your normal logic goes for a toss the moment bigger data. And this I explored further. And so when I joined the show, I joined as a engineer. Then I started demonstrating that how to hack into their softwares. I helped them secure the software. I used to give these internal trainings to people on how to write secure code. That became very popular in the company. uh,
Okay.
yes.
So basically, right now you have Cloudx Lab, but you have been training people sort of since from a very early time, like even in
Yeah,
college with C++, in
yeah,
your
yeah,
own company, DShaw, you were training people
yeah.
to write
Uh,
secure code.
yeah, yeah. So in college, I wasn't teaching. It was the
Hmm.
professor who as a student group, we got the professor to teach us
Okay.
mathematics professor. So in college, I wasn't do, but in 12th class, I was teaching. I was teaching a couple of years senior people to me. Okay.
Wow.
11th and 12th, yeah. So I enjoyed that. I really love it. And
So, DShaw, I mean, just to give some context of the amount of data you were handling, this is pre Google days, guys. I mean, this
yes,
is really, really old time. So, what sort of data were you handling? This is like big data before big data was a thing.
yes, yes. And instead of calling it big data computing, we used to call it grid computing in other ways. We had our
Oh,
own
wow.
map reduce method. Data, I mean, you can assume that we had 8,000 nodes running Postgres concurrently.
So, I'm very sorry, I'm not a programmer. So, can you dumb it down for a layman like me?
Okay. So
So, what does
data would be in petabyte. Okay.
wow, and this is back in 2002. Superb. So, you got exposure to this, you started working on these things, and what happens next? Like, you continuously
Okay.
work in the show.
Yeah, I worked at D-Show for 3.5 years. I enjoyed my work, but then I realized that probably I need to be challenged. Maybe I'm becoming complacent or something. So I left D-Show, started
Mhm.
exploring all kinds of opportunities and things like that.
Before
And
before you move forward, I should point out this. You
yeah,
you told this to me on our call. So you told me that you and Jeff Bezos have only this one thing in common.
two things.
Two things. Sorry, two things. So the
Yeah,
first one is he too
D-Show.
was a Disho employee when he formed Amazon, right?
And then Amazon, second common thing.
Of course, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So
Uh,
so you
uh,
leave Disho in around this is around 2005 2006, right?
Yeah, yeah. Then I joined briefly another company which was acquired by SAP. That was so brief. Afterwards, I started this company called T-Bits Global, and
Hmm.
we basically most of the power plants in the country are built
Hmm.
using our software.
Wow. Okay.
So essentially, it was like Jira for the construction industry. Okay.
Okay.
So it was a very very good experience. We basically had a really really good product, but we became very specific to the power industry. And I kind of started feeling that it is not moving at the pace that I wanted. and then I left it, and I gave it to my co-founder, and then moved on to join InMobi. And
Yep.
InMobi is a very wonderful place, very wonderful place. There I worked again on right, humongous data, and in terms of raw data, it was around 200 terabytes data, and we
Wow.
built a recommendation engine on that. Right, instead of showing ads, we built a product which will show the product recommendation. Since we know that you have this kind of history of playing with these apps, that was one. And then we built the gamification API for doing this in 6 to 7 months was amazing. And that's I really liked InMobi for that. I mean, the I liked both the founders and the way InMobi was doing, and the kind of data they had, the kind of informal structure they had was amazing. It was pretty good. Okay, but then I afterwards moved to Amazon, and I saw that Amazon still had this wide number of user base, right? They the reason I joined was that the team that was hiring, I really liked those guys. And, right,
Okay.
yeah, the Amazon detail page, that one that you see when you do buy now, and if it vibrates once, you may not know this part, but when you do buy now in your app, it vibrates slightly. Okay,
Yes, 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 it does.
yeah. If that version is built, as in along with my teammate. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay, nice. So this is now coming to 2012, 2012, 2013 is when you're
Yes.
working in Amazon. So
The
you worked as a senior software engineer in Amazon,
Right.
right?
So it was a very, very interesting team, I would say. Interesting team. And the kind of scale we have was just amazing. The amount of data that comes in a day is just remarkable. And I was one thing that impressed me with Amazon is that being such a big company, they still are very efficient. Okay.
Oh, okay. Okay. So can you
Because
give an example of some things? I mean, I don't know if you're allowed to talk about some things, but is there some example you can give which would
okay.
communicate that just to give some context?
So we were experimenting with book rentals. Okay, book rentals, right? You can rent a book and all. And there were junior people who are suggesting the design. There were very senior people, and then there were very senior people. Okay, so we basically ran all the variations and figured out which one is the best. Okay, and it seems that on
Wow.
the UI, which it was built by the junior most engineer, was better than everybody else.
Wow. Okay.
Right?
That's really hard to believe for a company for the size of Amazon. I mean, to have that
Yes.
culture, that's
Yes,
absolutely incredible.
the culture is amazing. Culture specifically with user centricity is just amazing, and that's something I keep. I always thought that I was customer centric even before joining Amazon, just like everybody. But when you get there, then you realize you are not. You are learning yet. Okay, what is it that? Right, I mean, the question that we used to ask ourselves is that what is it that you can sacrifice. I mean, we can all talk about, we are user centric, but when it comes to user centricity, let me ask you, like, let's say a very simple question. So in a conflict between vendor and, as in, seller and the buyer, who you are going to be biased to conflict.
I don't know. So in Amazon's case, I don't know. I guess the answer is both. I mean, for them,
the answer,
vendor is also
the answer is
important.
the answer is user.
Oh wow. Okay. Their
I-
perspective, it's always the user. Doesn't matter where the revenue comes
No,
from.
no, they do their logical analysis in case there is a really big fraud done by one user, then it's the user at the fault. And then when we do the bigger analysis, that the if, like, this vendor, I mean, this is impacting multiple users, so it's basically vendor. eBay did the mistake. eBay was more vendor centric,
Wow.
and that's so between the consumer and the producer. And the second thing is, let's say you are not directly selling to the user. Imagine the case of, you building the stereo for the car, and your buyer is Ford, but listener is the end user, right? So question is, who you are buyers, who is your focus?
See, I actually want to dig a little bit deeper on this. So your experience in Amazon and the way even you, I mean, conduct your business today, user centricity is it's like a buzzword. Like I wouldn't meet a single entrepreneur who would say I am not user focused.
Right.
But at the same time, like what you point out, that you really are not user focused. So can you give some examples like which you really thought that they're going above and beyond?
And let's say somebody joins your team. They will say in the interview they are user focused, customer biased, blah, blah, blah. Now, when they build a feature for the user and the user is not able to use it, at this point of time, they'll start to blame the user, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Right?
I get your
Right.
point. Yeah.
So this, they have to take it out of their head. Everybody, whether you are into sales, marketing, this, that. If a user is asking for a refund, just give the refund. Okay. I mean, don't try to throw a rule book on explain.
Privacy policy, refund policy, and all that nonsense.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So the important part is that when you are at the receiving end, when you are, let's say you build a product and user is not liking it, instead of saying that the user is stupid, the user doesn't understand this, go and look at the user. Okay, go and look at the user, empathize with them, look at their problem, sit with them. Somebody, called me that, hey, I attended your course, but I did not get a job. I want my refund. I said, take a refund, but the only condition I would ask is that we would sit together after the refund. I'm going to help you figure out what could you do in order to win your next,
Interesting.
right?
Okay.
So that's the important part. So it is hard to take criticism when I am teaching. Some people may not like what I'm teaching. Where the comes in, right? When somebody's telling, hey, you are not great, right? And I said that this guy is somebody who I'm working for. Okay. So all I will do at this point of time is, instead of saying that he's wrong, I will like to probe more. Okay. Instead of look at this criticism as somebody attacking you, look at the criticism as somebody telling you what can be improved. And this is exactly the kind of thing is very hard for all of us. We are not great with criticism, and this is exactly where we fail to give the customer attention. Similarly, let's say you are working with a company where you are working with B2B, forgetting who is your user. So between the customer and the user, go for user. That's my point. Okay. And
Always.
that's very, very, very simple thing. And the way I look at the maths, okay, simple thumb rule, very simple thumb rule. You can call it a bias or something. By improving something, how many people are in? Okay, it's not about who is making more money. Anything that you do, if you count the number of people who are impacted, you'll get your answer. Let's say you're working for a banker and you're building a policy or a program which is going to hurt many users, though you are getting your salary, right? But at the same point, you're basically going to hurt so many other people, right? At any point of time, my point is that this is something that we all forget. And in India or abroad, we all forget this part, right? And this is something that is very, very, very important. Any business owner, anybody, I know that business's purpose is to make money, but sustainable money. And you can be sustainable only if you are catering to your end user correct way. You're doing justice there. So this is a very, very important part. Like if you ask the people who were working in Hitler's army, right? They were all doing their job. They're doing really good job, but they were hurting people. Yeah, if that went into a little
No,
different
no,
direction.
no. I completely understand. I mean, this is a very important thing to point out because I think that is one of the reason for the fragility of a lot of businesses right now is this that user centricity is not the focus. Is that the user who is getting trying to convinced is the investor or is the just for the sake of a number rather than actually really deep diving into what the user wants. So I
Right.
completely understand. And this, like when you break it down, right, like as an entrepreneur, you're building the business. The only reason your business exists is not because of you. It's because of the user, as you rightly
User,
pointed out.
yes. User. I mean,
So
that's as simple as that. I mean, if you think about my journey, okay, in CloudX Lab, I
so
thought I'll
yeah,
just,
coming to Cloudx Lab, right? You complete your work in Amazon, and the
yes,
next setup is Cloudx Lab, right?
yes, yes, yes. So at Amazon, I was realizing that most of the junior engineers that are coming out of college or we
Mm-hmm.
are hiring, they're not qualified to handle bigger data. The kind of parallel computing we needed, the kind of engineers we needed, they had no. I mean, a basic question about parallelism, they failed, and that was one of the reasons I realized that this is a time to start what I've learned to teach. And this is where I just felt one day that now I'm done with Amazon, and let's just start with. And I started on
Cloudx.
first brand. Yeah.
So this actually transitions very rightly to my next question, which is how exactly did you end up identifying this opportunity that there are a lot of people who don't know about this, or who are not ready, or who are not prepared,
Right.
and like how did you go about building the very first version of your product or getting your first student?
Actually, your business plan is a function of your strategies, and everything is a function of the kind of business that you're planning, right?
Okay.
If you are planning to build a food delivery, I did a food delivery, by the way, in my earlier career.
Oh wow. Okay.
2004, in Hyderabad. I identified that there was a gap in the demand and supply. There was not many people serving North Indian food in Hyderabad. So
Okay.
I built this home delivery food service,
Okay.
and we used to deliver. I mean, I brought some people from North India who were running restaurants, and they were basically delivering food. And since we didn't have the Google Map that point of time, so we made the whole map on a big wall of
Whoa.
Hyderabad, of Hyderabad.
Whoa.
And then we
Okay.
used to, these guys used to deliver. But again, somewhere I always felt that I'm more passionate about the software rather than the logistics. And
Okay.
that's where the things started falling apart, because neither I know how to cook, neither I know how to
Yeah, yeah.
cook,
So I
nor I
mean,
have, my taste buds are very pathetic. Okay. Yeah.
like my first startup, which was Akar, which I started in 2015, and fortunately was able to sell it just beginning of 2020. I realized something similar, that I'm not a person who understands production or operations.
Right.
uh, at least in my case, I'm someone who understands content or who understands stories more than that. So like that, I completely agree. Like if you can identify what you don't get, that's actually really valuable.
Yes. It's actually very hard, because most of
Yeah.
us will have this shame around us, that
Yes.
telling that these are. See, I'm a colorblind person, for example. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and like the worst case of colorblind person. Okay.
So you're seeing me in black and white, like.
No, I mean, I had the both red, green, and the other color blindness.
Okay.
So if you know your weakness, you can always portray them in nice way. And before going into any interview, I just tell them, if you are like TCS who cares about color blindness, then I'll walk out of the interview. Okay. And I did that in my
Oh,
first interview. Yeah.
wow. There are
Yeah.
people who care about that. I did not know that. That's very
TC,
surprising.
yeah, I want to speak that name, TCS. Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
How does it matter?
I didn't know. I didn't know. I think it was just random selection criteria.
Oh
Okay.
my God. They're just looking for ways to filter people out, I guess.
Yeah. So yeah,
If
yeah,
you're less than 5'5", you're not
yeah,
selected. Like something like that.
exactly. It's like random firing. Okay. Right. So coming back to it, so it doesn't make much of a difference unless I went into my physics lab in college.
Mhm.
I did not know that I am colorblind, and for that matter, 10% people are colorblind. Okay,
Okay.
let's get back to the point. So
Yeah. So let's get back. So you start working on Amazon, and you start seeing there are a lot of people who are coming and joining, although from top institutes, may not necessarily be prepared to handle big data. And this is like early stages of the buzzword. But
yeah,
you, on the other hand, have been working on big data since 2002. So
right. Right, right. Basically, I realized there's a gap, and because I saw that the this strange phenomena in the market, that if you can't do great things, if you are not able to get a job, you start becoming teacher. That's actually really bad. And in this case, I mean, I wanted to prove it wrong, because if you are master at something, only then you should teach. Then you should teach that skill. The time is gone. Those times are gone. Right now, there are so many people who want to learn from you, and you don't have to go anywhere. The amount of effort I was doing at Amazon, in the similar amount, I could float and start everything compared to
Hmm.
being at home, right? So the time is very much changed now. And my realization was that I went to teach at somebody's classes. Somebody requested me for classes. I want to keep that confidential, and I got really highest rating they have ever got in that class. I think the class was on MongoDB. So I got really good ratings, and then I got the confidence that, hey, if I'm building this institution, I can do the entire thing. Okay.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
coming
Hmm.
back to the business plan part, the main question that you asked, the question was that how do you plan for your startup, right?
Yep.
So one thing is, number one, you should have at least survival plan of 1 year.
Okay.
Second, because otherwise you'll start hurrying up. Starting up a company is not really that a good way to you get your first salary. No. So if you have a survival plan, or if you don't have liabilities, then you anyway have survival plan. So you can basically start that kind of time. So that is one thumb rule. Maybe so every, as I say, that it could be my bias, just like every wisdom. My wisdom could be my bias, and that is one thing. Second is that the business plan is largely a function of what is it that you're trying to build, right? If you're
Okay.
trying to build a restaurant, then your strategy will be different. If you're planning to build a mobile apps company, mobile gaming company, your business plan is going to be different. And if
Hmm.
you are planning to build a large organization or something like that, then your strategies are going to be very different, right? So if you, let's say today you want to build a large consulting firm, you will basically wait to get really really powerful people onboarded with you. You will talk to many technologists, onboard them into various roles, build a detailed business plan with the financial projections, and then you present it to the VCs that are interested in seed round, and then you go ahead. So that is right. If the business plan that you are working on, if it looks really scalable and you feel that you will be able to impress some people to put money into it, then you should go ahead and build a pitch and go ahead. All right. And it's not a bad idea in today's time. If you're building a company, instead of just building the product right away, try to figure out your journey way ahead. And so in some of the businesses, what happens is, what people do is they basically put two and twos together, like, this is how I'm going to build the product, this is how I'm going to sell it, and this is how I'm going to make money. And once you are done with that thought, thinking through, basically will know whether to go for VC round or like angel round. For example, you can pitch it to like couple of angels. You will have to essentially, you start your journey. Let's say you got an idea that this will be really useful. You start your journey by writing a story about it, details like, this is what I want to build, these are the things I need, these are the reason why I want to build, and you keep on writing it like a linear flow. And once you're done with the linear flow, then you break it down into probably a presentable flow, because when you are going to onboard your teammates, uh, pitch it to the other people who are planning to join your journey, or you planning to pitch it seed investors or angel investors, right? At that point of time, it will be very useful, right? So once you have a storyline clear, by the end of it, you will have a very clear idea. Do you need more people into this game as a executor? Do you need money to start it? So that's one thing that I'm very very clear. And one of the thought that I have is that, other than reading about entrepreneurship, practice writing your
Interesting.
thoughts. Yes.
Interesting. That's a very nice point.
Because that structures your way of thinking, that structures every part, and you will find that you will be able to solve a lot of hard problems. And I have met many entrepreneurs. What they do is they basically write mails to me. Okay. And I like very impressed with that. They every night they'll just write an email to me, and they have already told me that, hey, ignore this mail. Okay. This is
You
okay.
have a personal journal with Sandeep. That's what they are saying.
This is something that I also do, right?
Mhm.
I basically keep writing these emails to myself. This is something that, an amazing tool. Though everybody is gaga about reading, yes, reading is important, but writing is also equally important, because writing helps you settle your thoughts, right? Just like sleeping helps bring your thoughts into place, similarly I feel that writing helps you structure your thoughts, and that helps you. And
So I would love to know this. I mean, so you identify this opportunity out of Amazon. What did you write back then? By any chance, do you have an email? By any chance, I mean, can you read it out?
no, I can't. I can't. Full of things, full of
Okay.
like whatever things comes into my mind, like
Mhm.
why am I feeling bad and how it's going to impact me. Whatever thoughts come to me, I
So if I were to ask you, what did you write to yourself to push you to leave Amazon and start Cloudx Lab? And then, like, what was that journey to your first sort of product and your first sort of student?
okay. So don't laugh at this point.
I'll try not to.
When I analyze my life at Amazon, right? In 1.5 years or so, I got stressed out. Okay. And I'm very, very sure that it was because of the travel in it. That was not the reason to start, okay? Because
Okay.
there were many people, many jobs out there. But then I realized that it's not worth my time to.
Wow.
Yes, it just is, I would say that was one trigger. I mean, when I think about it, I realized that I love to teach. I love technology. I love to build. I can make money. I can build a company around it. So I
Mhm.
basically put down those three skills upfront. The great ideas I liked about, see, everybody is having different kind of skills. Okay. So if you, and we just take three dimensions of people, let's say any three dimensions. Okay. They're them art, music, and let's say science. Those three dimensions, and we plot people. So the chances are there will be like on a sphere.
Okay.
They won't be like bigger or smaller. We can't say that this point is better than the other point. It all depends on from which side we are throwing a torch on this, which side we are projecting. Based on that, we judge that. So everybody is very different in this world. That's a great part about the world, that everybody is very, very different from other. We are incomparable. What I suggest is that you pick three of your skills where you perceive yourself better than average, and build a business around those 3 points.
Wow. Okay. Understood.
Yeah. Like you are you're funny, and you're okay with the drawing, and you are also a little techy, so you can build a technical comic book. Okay.
Exactly.
if,
Yeah. Makes
if
sense.
you are funny and technologist, you can be probably a stand-up artist in the technology,
Yeah.
and there are many, many many things that you could do wherever you can figure out like I'm better than average in this. And
Mhm.
this is how you can essentially figure out your dimension by combining these three characteristics. And
Okay,
so
that's a very nice way to look about it. So you managed to filter it down to these three
yeah,
ideas. You had an early taste with having trained
yeah.
students for MongoDB. So you also validated this. So now,
Yes.
what was the next step? So you put the
So
papers in Amazon next.
yeah, I put the papers in Amazon once I basically started, and then I realized that the main important part is that launch the course, so that right by the time I'm preparing my material, I will
Hmm.
start course in a month's time. I'll prepare all the material in 1 month's time. So I parallelized events. Okay. The other thing which I saw in number of people, including myself, is that we start building these dependencies. Okay.
Okay.
It's very human to create dependency. This is something that I am telling because I feel that many people will be benefited from this. So
Can
when
you
we
give an
are
example? When you say dependency, I didn't get you.
yeah, yeah. Dependency is like that, okay, let me first finish building the course, then I'll build the website, and then I will launch, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So now the smartness is how can you cut it down? What is it that you can do in order to start selling now today? So I realized that all I needed was a CMS, and I had a good experience with CMS earlier. And since I didn't have time to learn a new CMS, and I knew that when that day comes, we will build anything. For now, I just went ahead with Drupal because Drupal is something I knew.
Yep.
And
So for those of you who don't know, Drupal is like an alternative to WordPress, guys. It's a very
WordPress,
simple CMS which is very extensible. I think it's as well supported as WordPress. So
right, right.
yeah.
So I basically quickly installed it, install the payment gateways, and quickly, and then while it was selling, and thanks to my wife also, she supported me. She made my most of marketing things in the beginning, and but then later on, a couple of friends joined me. I'm really thankful to them. They joined as a team, and they have done a pretty amazing work. The main idea was, how do you break down the dependencies? How do you bring your go-to market really tiny? Otherwise, you will spend time going in circles. It's like a stage fear. Otherwise, you will build this stage fear, and it won't work out. So it's better to just launch something today. What is the smallest thing that you can launch? How can you break it down? And like, for example, the one thing that I learned, one of the cases was that we at Nmobi, we needed a product to showcase to our investors. Okay.
Okay.
Now it was a hard time because building this product will take a lot of time, right? It is going to take really good engineers, maybe 3 to 4 months, right? Now, on the day zero, what we did was we created the mockup, and we created an app that made up of mockups. So when you click here, it goes here. When you click here, it goes there. So it gave a proper experience to the users. And so this we gave our sales team and the people who were busy in product pitch and other things. So we unblocked them. So it is always smartest thing to do the, break the product or break your timeline into smallest possible, and that's where the creativity lies. If you look at the problem with closed eyes and with the mindset that we need to just release something today, or maybe tomorrow, or maybe in a week's time, not more than a week, not more than a week. Don't go for a product where you have like more than a week or more than a 15 days of time. Otherwise, you'll just keep on building and it won't work out. Of course,
Yep.
there are different businesses, there are different plans, but there also you can figure it out. How can you break it down for 1 week?
Absolutely. So this actually resonates very well with a study which was done, which says that I don't remember the exact name of the phenomenon, but basically what they did was they actually caught hold of a lot of people and gave them a task, and they gave a group of people, I think, 7 days to complete the task. They gave a group of people 1 day to complete the task, and they gave a group of people 1 hour to complete the same task, and they could not really see the difference between all three outputs. So everyone was able to finish the task,
Right.
and the output also, it wasn't like the 7 day wala was so much better. And this also very nicely like gives an example of a similar experiment which was done in a photography school, where they split the students into two groups, and they said one group of the students, the way you'll be evaluated is you have to take one photo in the entire 6 months, and that has to be your best photo. And the second group of students, they said that your evaluation will be in terms of the volume of photos which you take.
Okay.
And like they found out that the second group of people which didn't have that 6 months to plan out that one photo, they actually became much better photographers.
Right. Right. Right.
This very, what you're telling, it resonates really well, because I completely agree. Like, this
The,
dependency which you unnecessarily build is what kills your business.
the other challenge which I want to make everybody aware, and this solves this one, that when you are starting up your business, and this has happened a couple of times with me, put it through. So one of the things that I want to convey is that mind is a wonderful thing. Okay. The reason why people do not go for gym, do not quit their bad habits, or is same as why people never deliver a product. Why? I'll explain to you. So what happens when you are building a product is that, since if you do not have a commitment, a social commitment to the world, the chances are that you'll keep telling yourself, hey, this is not good enough, that is not good enough, let me just remove let me just add one more feature, let me just add one more feature, or let's do it later, let's not do this product at all. And you will go in this for eternity. Like, and that's one of the reasons why what happens when do not control yourself. Okay, I'll be very, very clear about this. So what happens is that people go to office, they work because their boss has assigned something. They studied, we studied because our teachers had asked us to, that there is an exam or test. When you are an entrepreneur, you have nobody. You have nobody to tell that, hey, you are lazying around and you're not doing anything. And you don't have deadlines. And when you don't have deadlines, because biologically we are to achieve a goal told by somebody.
Interesting. Okay.
And when you step into the shoes of an entrepreneur, you have no deadline imposed on you by somebody. Okay. So you basically trick yourself into a commitment. Okay. So by building an initial quick product, you will trick yourself into a product commitment to the world. Okay. And when you have a commitment, you are smart enough to actually fulfill it. So, I mean, right? That's something that I'm
Yeah,
very sure by, searching online, by hiring somebody, requesting somebody. I mean, you can do all kinds of things. Most important
absolutely.
part is that focusing on if you are building and you decided to build something really small, which will serve as a promise. And I always did this. I made sure that I promised to the world that there is a class on this date. And I always was able to, do such a deep study on the subject, even if I knew the subject. And yes, I realized that no matter how independent I was, I used to think from this all the time that I was very independent, and I'm one with the agenda and all of that. But when I look at it, I'm also a person which basically follows the same principle that Nikhil told, that given the timeline, I'll basically finish it if as the deadline is approaching. So you need to figure out how to get yourself out of this, out of
Mhm.
the well by yourself. You have to figure out tool, technology, a social tactic, either of the three things.
It's a very nice way to put it. So you quickly, on Drupal, make a simple page, integrate a payment gateway, and you just go live.
Yes,
And like you did this in what, couple of days, 1 week?
1 week.
Wow, that's actually, when you think about it, right? 1 week is good enough time to make a
Yeah,
decent website,
yeah.
right? You like, uh, so you go live, and then you're immediately getting students. Like what
No, no.
happened?
So I went live. Now, when I went live, there were lots of challenges. Then, basically, the story started when I went live. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah,
So
yeah,
before
absolutely.
that, I
Yeah.
was thinking, oh, there was so much work. I finished so much work and this and that. My right, and then I like, oh man, nothing. It's basically story starts now. Okay, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
and this is something that probably one thing I did was I wrote email to everybody in my friends list. Okay. I wrote a custom direct email. That email would be there somewhere, even in my inbox right now. Somewhere I can't
Oh,
find it, but I'll just share
oh,
it
damn.
with you. So I wrote this email declaring that I have started this.
Hmm.
Okay. And I'm doing this. And that's a commitment. That's a tactic that I don't walk back.
Hmm.
Okay. I should not walk out of my commitment to people. And
Correct.
since lots of my classmates have a huge trust in me, in Mobi colleagues, my Amazon colleagues, my even Disha colleagues, as well as my classmates, they were very positive about it because they know me very well. When they have any kind of technology questions, they come to
Hmm.
me. This has been happening since my BTech first year. Okay, so when I declared this, they were happy about it and they were very supportive, and they were basically. Then what I did was I announced a free webinar, and lots of
Okay.
people came to the free webinar, and then magic happened. So then people started enrolling for this, and lots of things. I mean, lots of tactics you need to figure out. Like for example, I got invited at Dell. Dell invited me for a talk on big data and so on, and I went there. There were like more than 500 people in a room, and my and that also helped a lot. And More than that, what I feel is that people respond to the passion, because users are like the learners. They would not know what is right or wrong, but they know that there is Sandeep Giri, and we are in safe hands. So that is
Correct.
something we worked on, and that is something that is a kind of a promise to people, to my friends. Almost like many of my friends have, my classmates, right, have attended my classes. Okay. They have purchased, they have attended, and they still feel that they can reach out to me and get their, I mean, get discussions going, like how to do this, how to do that. So there is something that I'm really proud of, being able to help the world, for that matter. I mean, so many people actually write to me saying that, oh, these videos were very useful to them. And
Absolutely superb. So that makes a lot of sense. Like when you break it down, that's all you need. Like you just need passion for a topic and passion for the activity which you're doing, and I guess everything just pans itself out.
yeah,
So
so we talked about building a business plan, right?
Mhm.
We talked about, I mean, the power of collaboration. You cannot ignore the power of collaboration. Like when you build a business plan, you collaborate with people, you, convince them to join you, and so on, and always respect that part. And second was like, how do you shake yourself out of your comfort zone? Like you have to, if you make a public commitment that could shake you out of your comfort zone, and try to deliver something, make a public commitment, and move ahead, and build a smaller product, cut the product down to something very small, deliverable, and that's how you will be able to do it. I'm not saying that you lie to people. I'm not saying that you should try to give a fake product. No, I'm not saying that. Smartness is figuring out what is the least common denominator, or we call that minimal viable product.
Absolutely, absolutely. So moving on to my next question, you are a ed tech company, but not a typical ed tech company in the sense that for those of you who haven't checked out Cloudx Lab, they are known for, apart from of course Sandeep sir taking the courses, they are known for the lab itself. Can you tell us a bit more about that, and how did you conceptualize that? That's one of your most unique selling features. That's one of the reasons why your platform, I truly believe that it's maintained and it's kept growing.
Okay.
So can you
Okay.
take us through the journey for the actual lab? So
Okay.
for those of
Okay.
you who are a bit confused, I'm sure Sandeep sir is going to carry us through this particular
Okay.
part. So
So I'm going to be very brutally honest with all of you. Okay. So most of the innovations have happened because of our empathy to the user. Okay. So we started the course, and people kept on struggling with the existing virtual machine kind of setup. They'll download that virtual machine. Somebody's laptop doesn't allow installation. Somebody's doesn't have memory. Somebody this, somebody that, and they still, after doing that, out of 20 people, only like one person got it. Okay. And still he's questioning then, you normal Java code is faster than your Hadoop map reduce, then why should I use this whole thing? Because, and then that point of time, I got the realization that let me just help these people. I'll think about building business later. Okay.
huh.
And have a faith that when you're helping people, let me just try to do what I can do for these people. So what I did was, I quickly got like DigitalOcean, some servers up on the DigitalOcean, put
Mhm.
the entire tools, whatever needed for my class, installed it there, and gave a single login to all the people in my class, saying that,
Interesting.
hey guys, I know that it is a wrong thing to do, but all of you be respectful to each other. This is the login, this is the password, and you guys can start using the cloud-based lab. It costed me something like 40,000 rupees in a month, but I was kind of okay with that. It made sense to these people, because they did not come here, to see my rule book, that hey, we do not give the rule. No, they came here with the faith that they want to learn something. So we made sure that, so I installed it, I made it available. Now after doing this, my neighbor, who is also my one of my co-founders now, he said that, dude, this is very good. You should just put TM on it. Okay, Cloud Lab TM. Okay. And I did that and created a separate page called Cloudx Lab. No, I just created a page on No Big Data. That was my that website that time, and then
Mhm.
and then linked it. Now all my competitors, they started copying that TM. So we also support Cloud Lab with TM. Okay,
Okay.
and this is an interesting
S-
exercise. So then other companies, the my competitors came to me saying that, hey, can you also give us this service? Okay, and that was orthogonal. That was like completely, you know,
Unexpected.
unexpected. And they said that we can buy you out, but I said that you don't need to buy me out. You just use my lab. Okay, all
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So essentially, I made more money from the lab than I was making from the course.
Wow.
Okay,
Okay. So
and
for, I mean, just to simplify this for a lot of people who are not technical here. So if you want to get into software engineering, you're talking about even before you write the first line of code, there's tons of setup. You have
yes,
to install different operating systems, you have to download libraries, you have to do this, that. I mean, honestly, Sandeep sir, a lot of times, whenever I've taken up courses, I like screw it. I
sure,
don't want to do it because
exactly,
I don't want to go and install all
exactly,
that stuff.
exactly,
So
exactly.
what
So,
Cloudx Lab has done is they when you
so
take up one of their courses, they actually give you a login where everything is done and you just log in and you start coding, right?
yeah. So it's like, when you are when you are learning to drum. My kid learns to drum, and when you want to learn to drum, since you cannot carry the drums around wherever you're going, and you can't play, what you do is you carry a drum pad, a small drum pad with drumsticks.
Correct,
Okay,
correct,
in the
correct,
bag,
correct.
and wherever
Yeah.
you get a time, you take it out and start playing. Right now, the thing is that start if you do not come up with the idea of a drum pad, you will always have this mental block that I'll go home and I'll do the drums, and so on, right? And right, and that's exactly what Cloudx Lab does. That if you're really inclined to work, inclined to learn, you don't need to wait till the entire system is set up. As I said in the beginning, that you have to, when you are building learning tools, you have to identify those points from where the users keep on falling back and leaving it. You have to identify those terminal points, and you have to keep eliminating those, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So you brought up this particular point that this was completely orthogonal, and you didn't expect this to turn out to be something. So can you
right.
can you actually talk a little bit more about that, and how someone else can think about orthogonal aspects to their businesses as well?
Okay, okay. So basically, one thing which I want to say is that you should be very passionate about user. Okay, because it helps you in many things. Okay, first thing it helps you is, right, it helps you build a better brand name. That's of course there. If you are serving your users really well, you'll build a better brand name. They'll bring more users, and so on and so forth. The second advantage that you will have, the second advantage you will have with respect to being the customer empathetic is, you will
Okay,
end up innovating. Okay, you will end
interesting.
up innovating. If I have to innovate anything in the younger kids, I will actually start taking my classes myself. Okay, I'll start teaching my kid, I'll start teaching other kids, and would observe exactly what is wrong. Only then you can do the innovations, and the innovations are just something that happen, and innovations are something orthogonal as in, let's say I hold my hands like this, and you have to separate these hands with two fingers, right? Now there could be one way that you try to pull it like this, and you say, oh, world is unfair, I'm not able to proceed, what should I do? And right, it's a very hard business to do, it's not something, right? But then if you look at it, or if you get somebody else to give you a hint around the business, you say, okay, I can push it like this, right? If you push one hand from below, other hand from down, I can't apply the force there, right?
Correct.
So
Correct.
this is an orthogonal dimension, right?
Correct.
And every business, if you look at, when they become really big, they have monopolized a one dimension, one any dimension that you think. Like, for example, you can't really compete with Microsoft by building Windows, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
You can't compete with Google by building Google search engine. You can't compete with Facebook by building, right? Instead, you can build something else. Okay, something else. So, or you figure out the orthogonal dimension, and the orthogonal dimension is something that it's hard. Like, for example, now that I can push it like this, but did you know that you could also push it like this, one forward and other outside? That's a third dimension. So the greatness about
I
the
I had a very crazy answer for this. I was like, I'll tickle you, Sandeep sir. So.
yes, and all those are great answers. All those are great
Yeah,
answers.
exactly. Yeah, those are the examples of thinking orthogonally, is
Yeah,
what you're saying.
yeah, yeah. And we try to discipline people so much that they forget to apply orthogonal dimensions. Okay, and that's something that is I mean, I always say that when you start exploring more and more, keep trying, you will definitely come up with the orthogonal dimension in your business. Okay, and
Absolutely.
that would happen invariably. And like for us, when we started Cloudx Lab, it became useful, people started using it, and what we did was we kept on focused on making it more and more user friendly. The other challenge we were facing in case of Cloudx Lab was that we were like couple of people only who were reviewing people's exercises, because of which it became very one, you submit your exercise today, I will answer tomorrow or day after, right? I'll review your work and then answer. No, that's not great, and that's anti programming. That's not how people learn programming, or learn anything for that matter, because people learn programming by doing by themselves, like poking around and so on. So what we built was assessment engine on top of our Cloudx Lab, and this assessment engine is something that became unique, and that is being is used for all these courses now. So when people take up a course, uh, on one extreme is Udemy, where there is like these small videos, and nobody watches those. People buy those, but nobody watches those, right? Similar cases with other Coursera and others, right? You take
Yep.
up
Yep.
all these courses, and you really don't finish. On the other
Guys,
hand,
trust me. What he's saying is absolutely true. I have
right,
tried. I have wanted to learn to code, but nahi hua hai. Yeah. So
right,
please continue. Yeah.
yeah. So right, and I'll continue to work on this part, which Nikhil, you are saying that what can I do in order to bring a person like you who is not interested in this still do this. Okay, still do this. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And
Yeah, and by the way, it's not that I'm not interested. I am definitely interested. Like, I want to have this toolkit in my life. I don't know, like, it's just never clicked. I like, it's very difficult to explain. Like, I
right,
understand conceptually this is how programming works and this is what has to be done. But
right, right.
when you get down to it, I get stuck at just installing Linux on my system. So
I'll tell you. I'll tell you, Nikhil. I'll tell you, Nikhil. We okay. Sorry if you think of it as digression. I'll tell you this. Me
no,
and my
absolutely. Yeah.
me and my wife started having sugarless chai. Okay,
Okay.
last 1 month.
Okay.
This is the only time we observed that we actually leave chai in our cup. We forget chai in our cup. This is the only time. Okay. You know why? Because we never forgot our chai. Have you forgotten your chai? No. But if you start Having, say, sugarless chai or green chai, the chances are that you will forget the chai in the to drink it. Okay, and the reason is it's more subconscious. It's more subconscious. Okay, and and that subconscious is something that I try to figure out. Like, what can I do so that people don't leave my course just like green tea? Okay, you see that, right?
What's the sweetener which I can add?
Exactly, exactly. So that's why between a hard exercise and easy exercise, I choose easy exercise. Okay.
Correct.
Between the truth and kindness, I choose kindness. Okay.
Interesting. Okay. That's a very
And,
nice
and
way of putting it.
that's something very something that I'm learning every day about. You know, it's not worth the hard questions. If I'm giving like really hard question, it's not worth giving hard question if your user is leaving you. Okay, you have to keep him there, right? Coming back to it, and it should not be like sugar, which is like fake way of tricking you, but it should be
Correct.
like little better things. Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Coming
Maybe
back,
jaggery. Maybe.
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. That's a very interesting way of looking at things. So
Or
coming back.
if
Yeah.
let's say you, when you are drinking, let's say a milk or some a cup of this, it's giving you a point like you finished this much. Okay, and then right, you will do it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's what we are doing in Cloudx Lab also. So when you do things, you keep on getting these points, and for earning these points subconsciously, you'll continuously do it. Okay,
Correct. Correct.
so
Correct. Correct.
and this is something that we figuring out all the mechanisms which Facebook did. Facebook and WhatsApp and Instagram, they are
Yep.
figuring out mechanisms how to hook you into
Correct. Correct.
watching them,
Correct.
attending
Yep.
them. And we are
Yep.
using the same mechanics. We
Mm-hmm.
are proud to say this, that we are using the same mechanics to
To
hook you
keep
to your
someone.
learning. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Oh, superb. That's a very very nice way of thinking about this. So moving on to my next question. If I were to ask you, you have sort of answered this already, but if you had to think, what is a mistake which a lot of ed tech companies end up doing? It is this itself. Like I think they end up focusing too much on the video side of things. They end up focusing too much on the
Yeah.
content side of things, and they really ignore the actual journey which someone takes to learn a skill. Right? Like, correct me if I've understood it wrong.
Right. Right. So when you say ad tech, everybody say, "Oh, you have to make videos." No, you have to code, you have to build products for every special problem, for different set of people. You'll have to build products, and that's what we're doing.
Correct.
And that's
Absolutely.
what we're working every day. And most of the edtech companies. So okay, another thing I wanted to tell though the people who are is planning to start up, because I think your channel is about that. One thing is that it is completely okay to clone somebody's business.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So let's say you like Sandeep Giri's business, Cloudx Lab is a great idea. If you think that you can build the entire thing, you should build it. And you know
Correct.
that you can sell it. But when you do this, have a faith that on this journey, you will work hard and innovate in the game. Okay.
Okay.
Even though your idea in the beginning could be a copy paste. Okay. But in the longer run, you will win because you will innovate. Okay, if you do not innovate, if you're thinking, if you're just copy pasting and you're not learning, you'll say, oh, he had that much money, therefore he was able to do it and I'm not able to do it, right? Because you are still copying this person. Once you have built the fundamental game, basic game, now is your time to start innovating in the game. So I had this faith that starting an ad tech company wasn't a big deal. Everybody could do it. Anybody with maybe few crores in their pocket can do it just like that. Okay, but in my case, I had a strong faith that while we will do this, we will be able to innovate in all kinds of dimensions, and we are doing that. And there is nothing
Interesting.
wrong and looking at your competitors, looking at all others, just to get ideas, advisors, competitors, or your innate nature. There's nothing wrong in looking at all of this and get ideas. But what is wrong is just taking somebody's idea and trying to implement it.
Interesting. That's a very nice way of looking at it.
Yeah.
So moving on to my next question, this was something which was extremely interesting to me. So I'm sure everyone will agree here, Bangalore is one of the best cities for innovation across the globe. But we have a major problem, which is Bangalore traffic sucks.
Right. Right.
So you told me that you have been working remotely since day one. So this is from 2014. And when I say remotely working from home, even I mean COVID really didn't have an impact on you from the operations side of things. So
Yeah.
I would love to know how you went about doing this, because
Okay.
a lot of businesses want to work remotely, but it's really hard to figure it out. It's really hard to figure out how they'll be able to do it and all that. So how did you set it up? What was the thought process, and how have you made sure that one, you've recruited the right team remotely, you've maintained the operations remotely? So I would love to know what your answer is for this.
Right. Right. So I think main reason people want other people in the office is because they don't have trust in each other, honestly
Correct.
speaking, right? Because it's more comfortable to work online with a friend than looking at talking in person. Right? Let's say you have a woman colleague or a female colleague, and you want to look at their code and discuss their code, right? And it is very uncomfortable for them to sit by your side, and you peeping into their computer and so on, right? It's very uncomfortable for them and uncomfortable for me also, and for others. I'm sure people can connect. I mean, what we see with a trend always is that even when we are sitting, like three people sitting on just next to each other, they'll screen share and be on Google Hangout and still discuss it. Okay, just in person. Okay. All right.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And this works out very well. Okay. Now coming to it, so in 2014 I started working from home, and I got a teammate who I knew from D-Show time. She has
Hmm.
done a very incredible work, and I had a very big trust on her. And she basically was also working from home, and
Hmm.
I had no questions ever in mind that she will not be doing justice to the work. and
Correct.
I was very very clear that if somebody is coming to my office traveling all the way, it is not really, it's not worth the time. They could take the time and spend it on with their family. So that was the first thought. Second was that though when I had couple of more teammates, we got we got an office and all, because they wanted to get out and be at a place. In my case, I have always built my workspace. I've always keep this thing, and in 2012 I had done that. And my
Okay.
first startup was again from my home only, like in 2006. And
Okay.
I'm quite comfortable working from home, and I feel that we are lucky to be in a business where you don't have to travel,
Hmm,
right?
hmm, hmm, hmm.
And what I saw is that I meet people. I love to meet people over a beer or over a coffee, but I don't want to meet people to work with them. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's a very nice way to think about it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I completely agree.
Okay. And since what we needed, the other thing is that location for us was anyway irrelevant because our users from across the globe. I wanted my sales team from across the globe. So we had people from Germany, people from say UAE, and people in say northern part of India, and so on. Different people from different places to answer people's questions. I had people in Singapore and people, right? So that all time zones we need to cater. So it's not possible to cater all time zones with people being in single city in single time zone. And therefore all the four things are going to be different. Like let long and the time, all the like position and the time have to be different. And we have to, we learned it was very hard in the beginning, you know. I used to think that maybe the persons are not working, but then I thought that how can somebody be sure, you know? The only way you can be that you hired a person, you put a faith in them. The most other important thing which I learned was that, thanks to Amazon again, and that instead of assigning tasks to people, don't assign tasks to people. You tell them to create, write a document about the thing that they want to do. Okay. So what we do is we have like multiple teammates. We let them pick up a full product. No slicing like this is front end engineer, back end. No, I stopped doing that. Okay. All engineers are engineers. They own exactly what do you want from the end user's perspective. At Amazon, we used to have this exercise called PR, press release. You have to write a press release for your product, and they used
Wow.
to train you in that before building
Wow.
it. Okay. And we also do that. I ask my teammate that, hey, why don't you write this? And they come up with these wonderful ideas that why don't I do this? Why don't I add this feature? And then I say that, okay, you are free to prioritize, but keep in mind that objective is not technology. Objective is objective is your end result to the user. Okay. And once they have this small document, is a very interesting thing. Till the point document is not written, it is your job, because you are the founder of CloudXLab. Once the person writes the document, they own it. It is their personal thing. Okay. It is their personal. Now they'll figure out their minimal viable product. They'll figure out which one should go first, which one, how to be done, and so on. They all can figure it out. And trust me
Correct.
that they can figure it out, because humans are way more smarter than doing only the corporate job. Okay. I'm telling you honestly. I mean, they hardly use like 5% of their mind when they're in a traditional job. Hardly 5%. Okay. I mean, don't quote me on this. I have not measured it, but this is what.
Yeah, like this is what your gut says.
Yes, yes. The other thing I want to say is that if you really want to get things done, one is let people own things. Let people own things. Second, learn how to convert any exercise into a learning exercise. Okay. So somebody was working on this, and it looked very ambiguous, how to do this, how to do that. So what I do is often, especially with the freshmen, that hey, nobody's going to tell you what you're going to do. Okay, I'm not going to tell you that write this, write that, compose it. Nobody's going to give you your to-do list. It might be very upsetting for you in the beginning, but this is the time that you are learning. So I said that this is the thing that you want to build. Your skills are aligned to this. Now you write your things, like what are the things that you should do. If you are not clear about the end objective, then that's a different scenario. But if you're clear about end objective, you're clear about end customer, write it down. And consider it like a learning exercise. This will change you forever. And when people know that it's a learning exercise, I mean, I'm not saying that you lie, you convert the task into a learning exercise. If you convert that, the individuals will own it, and you don't have to monitor or chase anybody. You don't need to shout at anybody. You don't need to
Correct.
monitor. And the moment you shout or you misbehave, trust me, you have lost a person. Okay.
Yeah,
You have
yeah,
lost.
absolutely. Absolutely, absolutely.
So it is something that we do, me and my co-founder, which is Abhinav. We do it often, and we make sure that.
Interesting. That's a very nice way to look at it. So that's the part of, how you've been able to ensure that you you guys work well together. So tell me this: what about recruiting? How have you carried out recruiting remotely? Because I actually uh, I had the opportunity to interview another entrepreneur, and I mean, of course, like everyone is different and everyone has their own perspective. And he had a very interesting perspective. He said that, Nikhil, how can I make a decision for, 10, 15, 20 lakhs without even having met a person? And and I mean, so of course it varies from business to business, but that was a very interesting way to look at it. When I asked how are you recruiting remotely, they said we are not, and the reason is, at least me, him personally, how can you make a
So
decision with
your bank account is virtual, right?
That's true, that's absolutely true,
Yes.
but
You have not touched money for how long?
oh yeah, I actually, I have actually run into issues because I rarely carry cash anymore.
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
uh, it's all
So
thanks to phone pay and Paytm. I don't remember last when I even took out my card. Forget about my cash
yeah,
or anything.
yeah. So I mean, I think what I should say is that I mean, in most of our businesses, most of the businesses today, you really don't need a person to come to a job. Okay, most of the businesses.
Okay.
And regarding hiring, I'll tell you this. I would like somebody to give the good interview over the video call. If their camera is not working, their internet is bad, or it's too laggy and things like that, I'll probably not hire the person. So I want to test that part. Okay,
Wow.
right? So their appearance, you for me, like Nikhil for me, is the Nikhil over the camera right now. If your voice wasn't clear, if your video wasn't clear, that's what represent to me your height and weight. Like in physical, right?
Yeah.
Right? The characteristics, the feature sets, we had a very different one. Okay.
Correct. Correct.
The like the color of your face, the height, the clothes that you're wearing, which watch are you wearing, all of that has sunk into now, like what background I have right now, and and what kind of net connection, what kind of mic I have, and whether I shaved or not. So that's something, is a different thing. Now most of the businesses today are basically exchange of words.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. And coming back to it, when I come to recruiting, if you think about IIT JEE, right, the way they recruit, the way they take the entrance is basically they never see the face. Okay.
That is
Right.
true. Yeah.
And that's less biased than the places where you look at the face.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Okay. That's why I do not trust any of the interviews, in-person interviews that people take. Honestly speaking. Okay.
Yeah. You never know what kind of biases have snuck in. I mean, for example,
Every,
I'm a
every
person who,
yeah, I
like,
have
I'm a
justified
person.
biases.
Yeah, of course. So I completely agree. Like, one of the bias which I have faced when building out my first company, we would end up having interviews with these big manufacturing companies, right? Like, not interviews, like sales calls with these big manufacturing companies like ISCs and Bosch and Schneider Electric, and they had this very weird expectation, which fortunately a lot of companies in Bangalore don't, but they had an expectation that someone is going to come in suit and formals and all.
Hmm.
And I was like, I can't. So if, for me, it's like I become anxious if I wear formals.
Right.
I
Right.
start worrying about my clothes. I was like, oh, wrinkle ho gaya kya? So I don't wear formals. Like, I just stopped wearing it. Like,
No, no.
uh,
I experimented with farmers, and I found
okay.
that if you wear a blazer to a hospital, it is actually useful. Yeah, I used to get free parking. Okay.
No, but the point I'm trying to make is these biases actually
Yes, yes,
do
they
not
are.
make a difference. Do they
Yes.
really make a difference? I don't think so.
No, no, they don't. What matters is I'll explain to you why I have a personal interview rounds. Okay. In personal interview rounds, the one thing that I check is how well is the person at communication. Okay. And the communication round also, I have made sure I'll explain to you my hiring process. I think that
Sure,
will make
sure.
sense to you.
Yeah, yeah.
So
It'll be much better.
yeah. So first thing what we do is we have a very interesting written test. Okay.
Okay.
I believe in the written test. Okay. And I believe that written tests are less biased than the non-written ones.
Okay.
Second thing, once the written test is done, what we do is we have at least three different independent rounds. We do not communicate to each other till the point we write the review, but we do not communicate to each other that hire or no hire. We have a very bad habit usually that we gossip around. Okay. Oh, this is a nice candidate. This nice guy. No, I do not let it happen. So my teammates I train them for this. Okay. So, and it's a learning exercise for everybody, like how to hire. It's a hard thing. And so building a good written test is the first thing I start with. Okay. And I keep in mind that what is it that they are going to do in a long run. And second thing I test a person is on their ability to communicate. Okay. In case of strictly communication roles like sales role, or one test I keep is that where I turn off the video of the phone, like here I'll turn off my camera and I'll ask you to turn off your camera, and then I'll ask you to dictate over the phone how to make an aeroplane. Okay.
Wow.
And
Okay.
I'll make the aeroplane. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
Or how to tie the shoelaces, as simple as that. Okay.
Wow. Yeah.
Or and so on and so forth. And trust me, when you do this exercise, when you go back, you'll find that it is actually pretty hard to do. And
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I can imagine. Like I am
right.
so I am crazy into content, right? And I'm remembering one very viral video. I don't know if you've seen it, where there's a father and he's asked his kids to
Prepare the
give him
pancakes.
guidance how to make a peanut butter sandwich. Yeah.
Yes, 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 yes,
And
yes,
that's one of the most hilarious videos
yes,
I've had to watch, and
yes,
it was one of the most educational one. Like, coming from
yes,
someone who's into content and marketing, I can
yeah,
understand how hard that is to build. Like, it takes
yeah.
lot of experience, lot of attempt.
Right. Right. So basically, I am a big believer of these kind of interviews. I've been hiring many people. I've hired a
Mhm,
lot in my college for my own
mhm.
group, and I hired for Disha. I hired for Amazon in Mobi. I hired for my own startup. So I have experimenting over and over, and I found that we are interviews are very biased. Interviews are very biased, and written tests are not biased.
Yep, yep.
And looking at degrees also we get biased. So a lot of time we don't look at the degrees, no, don't look at the resume. We just give the test and then
Correct,
let them
correct.
solve. And so I would say that one should work on hiring. I used to hear these big the people with some experience telling that, I can recognize people like this. When I meet them, I know them, right? And that's a big lie.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Absolute lie.
That's a big lie. And
Yeah,
right? And there is nobody who can figure out somebody just like this. It's very, very hard. And
correct.
figuring out in a couple of hours is very hard. You just play a safe role that, okay, this person can solve my problems, and that's pretty much. And you can't do much more than that. Okay.
So is this right? Like, written test, different independent rounds, ability to communicate, and then, without a video feed, simple questions like how to make an aeroplane.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah. Yes.
this is typically the stages which you go through.
Yes. Yes. So that's
And
basically the communication test.
I actually want to know this, where for the aeroplane part, I mean, how did you like? Did you get some very funny instructions? Can you share a story or something like? Did someone just tell you he got frustrated and he's like, just crumble
So
the paper and throw it in the dustbin?
most of the candidates actually get frustrated by the end.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
I
the
can
moment
understand.
the moment right, they'll say that hold the left, turn it to the right. I mean, I can hold this, turn it to this side, either from the front or the back. And right, which two corners should I hold? They say, oh, hold two corners, the top one, this one, right? I can hold any corner.
Wow. You
So
know
it's,
what's the crazy part about this?
yeah,
Even if that person goes on Google and searches how to make an aeroplane
yeah,
and reads the instructions to you,
right.
even then it will be really hard to communicate the
Exactly.
instructions.
Exactly. So that's a test, you know. But the way I look at it, that when I ask my engineers about an algorithm to do something, what I'm testing is their ability to structure their thoughts and communicate to the computer, right?
Correct.
Similarly, my people's people, right? Those people who are going to talk to other people, their role is going to be able to communicate with other people, right? And this is an exercise where I can clearly measure whether the person is able to communicate or not. And this is and lots of people think that using big jargons, using lots of hard English word is a communication. No, communication is about simplifying, structuring your thoughts.
Yep.
Communication is not about trying to impress. And I remember,
Yeah, yeah.
like many people do that, but
Oh,
again,
like one very good example of this is, I mean, someone like Donald Trump, where people
yeah,
think he's really dumb when he speaks with simple language. He's not. He's probably one of the smartest marketers out there. Like, because he speaks so simply, every person understands what he's saying.
right, right. Communication is about being able to structurally convey, because tomorrow, when this person is talking to anybody, they will lose in the debate, they will lose in the discussion, they will not be able to make other person visualize. And that's why I turn off the camera, because lots of people basically start pointing and making an action, and then the role of voice is taken over by the body.
If that question was asked to me, the only way I would do it is take a paper, sit, and then recite what I am doing and try to
Exactly.
answer the question to you.
Exactly. So the other person, what they do is they basically take they themselves involuntarily, they basically bring their A4 size paper. Okay.
Correct. Absolutely. So that's a very nice way to look at it. So what I wanted to ask you was, so this is how you recruit, this is how you've focused on remote work, like how trust plays an important role, how you prioritize tasks.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like how do you keep your team connected? How do you collaborate? How do you ensure that everyone is on the same page? Because so that is one aspect of, sort of remote work which I still am not able to answer. Like, coming from a content side, right, we used to have incredible brainstorming sessions when we would sit together, and like we're just not getting that sort of brainstorming or collaboration which we would get, maybe because I don't know, like, again, maybe there's just a bias, right? Maybe the end result was
No,
the same.
I think, see, the thing is, in the real life, we have built so many interesting mechanisms,
Mhm.
right? Like going out for a tea is a small ritual that people do, right? That
Correct.
connects people. Sitting, going to standing by the side of your water cooler and discussing with friends is something that physically, thanks to the water cooler, the discussion happened. Biggest innovation at AT&T lab happened at the water cooler. So we need to create the water coolers, we need to create these social mechanisms. Okay, technology is here. Like, for example, we all know that in office we have to have meetings online. Now we do not know how to informally meet a colleague and go out for a tea now, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Right. So what we
yeah.
did was we created these rooms on Google, and one is called chai room, other is called, right, water cooler, other is called like daily huddle, and other is called like there's one of my rooms that I have given to everybody the URL, right? So now everybody has this list of URLs for the rooms. Okay, so they can just ping anybody at any point of time and then join them. Ki yaar, I mean, I just wanted to catch up, right? There's nothing to discuss.
कुछ काम नहीं है, बस बात करना था.
हाँ, but मन था बात करने का, and let's make that culture to impose that culture of being informal. So the problem is not that people are not serious enough. The problem is people are serious, right? That's the problem
Correct. Yeah.
because whether you are social, if you can't smile in your job, if you can't laugh or you can't be comfortable, then how will you be able to do your job? You won't be. It'll be like a stressful situation. You might have like BP problems. Okay. And
Correct.
so what we did was we catch up every day at 5:30. Like it's today also we'll have like 5:30. Everybody comes to the chai room, and we just bring our own chai mugs and we sit around and then
Okay.
discuss. Right, we'll talk about
Wow.
girlfriends. We'll talk about like all kinds of fun things. Yeah, or boyfriends. Like we discuss it like very openly. And this culture, I think my problem is not the that people are not serious about their job. People are serious about the job that I have ensured, and people I know I trust team member. I feel that people are just too tensed, and when they are tense, they can't be creative, right? When you
Correct.
think,
Correct.
oh, it's a job, you can't really be creative. But when you are at home, you are so creative. You build so many things. When you are comfort, you so you'll do all kinds of innovative things. So if
So
people are comfortable, they can do a lot of things. So I have a I'm trying to figure out more and more mechanisms on how to be informal. Like we went to Goa, for example, for 1 month. For
and
one
of
month,
course
we were
pre-COVID, guys. Don't worry. Don't start commenting. कि क्या कर रहे हो कोविड के टाइम पे जा रहे हो. This is pre-COVID. Relax.
right. So I mean, since our team was distributed, I wanted to personally meet them and at least be build a informal culture and have a and at least they should know that who are the people they are working with. So we all gathered in Goa for a month, and we were living in a hostel in a shared dorm. Okay. And this was a good experience for me. It was a very nice dorm. We took a office co-working there, and we were all there, and it was very very interesting. I mean people should do this more often. While many people dictate this thing that, oh, there are barriers, if there is no formality barrier between boss and the people, they'll not work. I mean, I'm not into extortion business, right? If I'm into extortion business, I like to intimidate all the people below me. Okay. So that they are afraid of me and they can follow my orders. But here, everybody has their own product too. That's the inverted behavior in companies people need.
Makes a lot of sense. Moving on to my next question, some questions related to money aspect. So, what's the business model like for Cloudex? How do you make money? How does someone pay you? That's my first question. The next question around money itself is, how did you arrange for the sort of seed funds which go into initially kickstarting your business? And how did you? I mean, how have you funded your business? How have you funded your growth? And just to give some context to our audience, like today in September 2020, like how many students are taking your courses? Just to get some context.
I'll tell you. So essentially, from the beginning, the most of the money has been invested from my side. It's not a big money. It was just a small, probably my PF money, right? And PF of 2 years. Okay,
Okay,
and that's the only money I have put in. And I was lucky to be in a business where I did not need to invest too much money,
correct.
and I did not raise seed or angel round because I wasn't sure that I'll be comfortable a business whereby I'm being interfered
Interesting.
because I didn't have the rigid product plan. Instead, I knew that this is my product one. As we keep on moving, we'll keep on innovating, and larger vision is to help people, be skilled in different technology. That was basically that's how we started. So, fund I have not much tried for any kind of seed fund. The company in the beginning for a couple of months it wasn't profitable. It was at loss. So, but later on we had a profit. So I kept the money in the company itself, did not take it out. So that keeps on filling up for any deficits that we have. Okay.
Interesting.
So
Okay.
Yeah, so the company is largely profitable, and it is going to be profitable. And now that we are profitable, or at least on the break even, now we are more focused on acquiring more users, serving more people, instead of making more money. So
Absolutely.
that's the idea. That's why we have kept the prices low.
Yeah,
That
I was actually surprised. I mean, going through the prices of your course, you do realize that there are certain machine learning courses which charge like hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Like,
what's the point of technology if you can't bring some?
that's a very nice way to look at it. Yeah, I completely agree.
I mean, we are not into gold business, right? We are not into fashion business. So if we can afford, because most of our courses are self-paced, and I don't think one should be charging too high for self-paced courses. And
Correct.
the only challenge that I see is that some of the people kind of come on the impression, just looking at the price, that oh, these courses may not be great. But what they do is they take up the small courses and then they keep on buying the bigger courses. And I
Correct.
mean, the other reason is that let's reach out to more people than more money. Let me be very clear.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
between more
Makes a lot
people
of
and
sense.
money, I will choose more people. Okay.
Yeah, I remember you telling pre-interview, like, if I tell you, if I tell anyone you want
Yeah.
$1 million or you want a million users, what will you pick? And the answer is always so obvious. Like, of course, it's the million users. So,
Okay. A
so
million dollars and say 100,000 users.
even then, I mean, 100,000 is a very big number. Like, so I guess when it comes to about 10,000, I would start thinking twice.
Okay. So the one thing that I like to say is that focus on number of people you serve. I mean, that's a message that I want to give to any product, any
Absolutely.
services that you want to build. Focus on number of people that you serve, and you have no right to say that, oh, this is not something, you are not serving somebody's need. You are serving somebody's need if they want to use your product, right?
Correct.
Whether you are building Angry Birds or you are selling perfume, right? Or you are giving food, you essentially serving somebody's need. And so the more, when you are building or thinking as an innovator or a product or a company, think of number of users. Okay, number of users, not like I'll serve one user and let him pay me $1 million. Right. The problem with that approach is there are two problems. One, when you have more number of users, the chance of you building something useful is very high. That's how usefulness is defined, right?
Correct.
More number of people. Chance of you being very biased is very high when you are serving two people or three people. Chances of you doing wrong things is very high when you're serving few people. If you are serving more people, chance of you doing right thing is very high. Okay. Also, if let's say this person pulls the carpet under you, right? Right, one person who has employed you, right, who is giving you $1 million, if he pulls the carpet, you will have nowhere to go. But if you are
Absolutely.
serving a million user, one person subscribe unsubscribes, there will be more people who will subscribe. Okay.
Correct.
So that
It's a
way,
lot. It's not harder problem to solve, but it's worth it.
yes, and that's what you need to figure out. The purpose of a
Yeah.
company, figure out what you can build that is useful for people, or that is people find it useful.
Moving on to my next question, I just have three more questions. So, what would you consider as sort of your biggest threat for Cloudx Labs? What keeps you awake at night? Like, what is that thing which is like, what are you paranoid about related to your business?
I'm paranoid about ourselves, very much ourselves, that we will get so complacent that we will forget the users. Okay.
Wow.
That
Okay.
is right. That is something that because this is so seductive. This is so seductive that, oh, you are making money, you're profitable, and you don't have to do anything. That's why I make sure that both of the founders, we look at the support every day. Okay. So it
Interesting.
is
Okay.
right, because we don't have investors to report to. We have only users to report to. and we basically look at our support every day, and we look at the analytics whether people are attempting more, number of attempts are more or less. Those are the things that we build our habit at. When you are a founder, it is very easy to believe that you can never lose, right? It's so seductive. It's like, it's a bad scenario. It's like when you are drunk, right? No matter how much people will tell you that you can't drive, right? You will be under the belief that you can drive, right?
Yeah, you'll have an ego. You'll have, I don't know, like,
You can't measure
uh,
yourself. You can't measure. You
you,
can measure the others. I
yeah,
can measure
exactly.
others. I can tell what to do to others. But when nobody is telling you, the chances are that you will. And one fine day when everything is gone, right? And then there will be like, it'll be nowhere. Okay. And you
Absolutely.
will not, we will not lose because our competitor did great things. We will lose when we did not do right thing for our youth. And
That's a very nice way to look at it.
because I mean that's how it is, and we that's why we look at all these numbers very 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 focused way.
Interesting. Moving on to the last two questions. So, your daily routine, like when we had our first discussion, right? You were very focused on trying to establish a proper work life balance. You spoke deeply about it. So, I want to know this, like, why is that such a priority for you, and how have you made sure that your daily routine allows for that balance?
So one of the things that work-life balance, right? In work-life balance, let's just agree with the fact. Okay, let's just be very very clear about it. At the end of day, everybody's purpose is their own survival, and or we if you add both of these factors together, it's called happy. Everybody wants to be happy as a family, right? And let's not forget it, the reason why people want to do job, the reason why I'm going doing job or I'm trying to do serving so many users is basically my family and my health. And
Correct.
since we are in an ecosystem where we can't cheat people, we can't steal things, we can't do injustice to the world, we can only sell things which are useful for people. Therefore we need to build something that is useful, and main agenda is my happiness, my team's happiness, and at the end of it without hurting my users, right? As well as without, I mean, they are also happy. We are basically helping them succeed. Now coming back to it, work life balance is a very very important thing. We basically, what happens is that we lose the objectives from time. Let's say we wanted happiness, right? So we wanted money, and we for that we took a job. For the job we wanted to serve our boss, and then we for to impress our boss we started working from 8 a.m. till 8 p.m., or till 10 p.m. And then you basically lost the main objective. You basically lost your main objective, that was your family happiness. And that's something that you need to keep always in mind. Okay, see, the reason I will buy a shirt, for example, right, like my social part. But if let's say I get lot of money and lot of shirts, but I have no time to wear those, or have nobody to show it, right? Or have no time to go out, then what's the point? So therefore work life balance is possible only if we all realize our main objective is very very clear, staying happy in own ways. Second, while on one hand this is such an awesome time, the COVID-19 is such an awesome time that you can work from home, the 2 hours that you spend in the travel, that you can spend with your family, okay, and you can chit chat with the family and so on, right? So work life balance basically, I mean, when it becomes difficult in the COVID times also, because what happens is that, as you said, that the work fills the time, whatever time is available we fill it, right? So
Correct.
if you have like 3 hours to take bath, the chances are that you will take 3 hours to take bath, right? So as a habit, couple of things we have done is, number one, we basically we have a very formal meeting in the morning. Okay, formal in the sense that 10 o'clock sharp we start, not 1 second before, not 1 second after. 10 o'clock sharp, we alphabetically just state what is it that we did yesterday and what we are planning. Okay, the purpose is not about doing accounting. The purpose is just to tell everybody that hey, we are up and we will be focused on the work. Okay, if we are working late, we just inform to each other that hey, I'm working late and I'll not be able to attend the huddle in the morning. So the first thing we do is we do the huddle in the morning, and before that I make sure that everybody's priorities are clear, that the main agenda is their own happiness. If they are not healthy, they are not happy in the family, they will not be able to work. Okay, all right. Because there is this very awkward thing that happens. People start believing that the person, the reason they have Saturday Sundays is because they can be ready for the office. No, right? They can wash their clothes, they can do other things. So your purpose of living is not office. Office's purpose is you living happily. Okay, so
Correct.
it's very I mean, it becomes very common with all of us that we forget the main thing. Okay, I have not seen a single person whose personal life has been disturbed and is able to perform. No, not a single person. So having, and that need to be done very systematically. So one of the things that I personally do is I have social time and I have my individual time. I Whenever I have to do something focused, I use a technique called Pomodoro technique. Okay, that's
Okay.
another
Okay.
bit, right? Because staying focused and getting things done would keep you way more fresh, and you will spend less time in the work, as opposed to if you're not focused and you're not building or finishing things, you keep delaying, and at the end of the day, your entire day is gone into the office, and you are being distracted doing this, doing that, doing this, doing that, and you are not able to deliver anything, and that leads to your bad work life balance. Bad work life balance does not happen because there is just too much work. No, the work life balance happens because we do not have a proper focus together.
So, for those of you who don't know, I think Pomodoro technique, you can just download a simple app on your phone. What it will do is it will start a preset time, like 15 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever. And during that time, your job is just to do that single task. Like,
Yes.
so, like, I think it's a superb technique. I mean, I haven't used it much, but
What you do is,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
so
please.
usually the way your psychology works, whenever you are stuck in a problem
Mhm.
or you are stuck in ambiguity. Ambiguity is a problem. Okay, so when
Correct.
you're stuck in ambiguity or any kind of problem, so what
Mhm.
you do is generally you walk out, you
Correct.
start doing something else. Now after a while it becomes a habit. Okay, every time you face a challenge, you get into this habit of walking out, trying to go for a smoke or do something, right?
Correct.
So it's not that you're taking a break. You start running away from a problem at the end of it.
Hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
And it start doing more harm than the benefit. Okay.
Interesting.
So Pomodoro technique, what it does is it asks you that for 25 minutes, you will just focus on the work. Okay. And then for 5 minutes, you will take a break. Okay. And in that 5 minutes, you will finish all the things that you could not do in those. Like somebody's call came in that 25 minutes, you have to return that call, or you wanted to get your water bottle, you wanted to have a coffee, you do all of that in those 5 minutes. Okay. And then again, next cycle is 25 minutes. And then again, 5 minutes break. And like that, you do four such ones, that is 2 hours. And then you take half an hour break. So why it works is, though lots of people think that, oh no, I know how to focus and I can focus for 6 hours at a stretch. No, the thing is, it not only helps you focus, but it also helps you discipline yourself. It helps you discipline yourself when to take break, and
Correct.
take break. Neither extreme is good. Taking too much break or taking no breaks is good. The other thing is, you build this psyche that when you stuck at the problem, you look at the problem and you look at all aspects instead of running away from it for a smoke break or a tea break or a walk. And that's
Correct. For
something
a
that
For a
Yeah.
quick dopamine hit, when you get stuck, just for that quick dopamine hit, you may do something. It
Yes. Yeah.
forces you to overcome that.
Yes. Yes. Hey, I'm not promoting any kind of smoking or something. I'm just giving an example.
Yeah. I mean, so when you say dopamine hit, it can be anything, right? It can be just watching a YouTube video or scrolling on Instagram.
Yes, yes, yes. So that
So
is, that's a very interesting thing for, yeah. And for the product managers out there or program managers out there, learn to manage the project without pushing people beyond the time. It doesn't happen. Okay. Learn to split the work into small chunks and learn to pick MVPs. And in case you are stretching, you're forcing somebody to work overtime, be apologetic to them, give them overtime. That is something I would like to say. Being a startup guy or being a founder doesn't give you a license to hurt people in their personal life, right? It doesn't mean that if you have hired a teammate and you want them to walk as much as you are working. No, this wrong everybody's part. Everybody has their own lifestyle, everybody has their own ways of working. Some people like to work at a later point of time, some people want to chat more and do things. So let them be at their own and focus on your results. And instead of pushing them for overtime, do your project planning, consider the individual task like a break. Do not try to press it like, oh, this is sorry, this is how can you say this is 2 hours, this should be done in 1 hour, right? You can't do that. You should not do that. You
correct.
should plan your project, break down into milestone, break it down into MVP, and do that. Bigger team later. Though having bigger team is very hard in engineering, because the moment you add people into the software engineering, the time becomes bigger. It doesn't shrink.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, coming back to it. So yes, that's my message to everybody, that if somebody doesn't have a work-life balance, the chances are that it will lead to all kinds of problems. Okay.
Yeah. You'll get burnt out. I have experienced burnout. Like, I mean, the first company which I started, like 16, 18 hours a day of work, and you realize you push that for 3, 4, 5 days. Maybe you can sustain like that for 2, 3 months, and then there are stretches where you just can't get yourself up to work. Like, you lose out huge chunks, and you start hating your work instead of enjoying it. So,
Say that this post that I did on LinkedIn, it's called oblos. Okay,
uh,
oblos is objective loss. Okay, and the example that I gave was, my kid was one day looking at us. My kid started to broom. We also were brooming ourselves, right? So he also started brooming, and initially his focus was to clean, and then slowly he realized that it is essentially to gather more and more dust. And after a while it became like, his purpose to gather the dust. And as he kept on doing it, he got a kick out of getting the dust, because it's measurable, right? Those smart objectives that you have in corporates, it's like that, it's measurable. It's the dust is like very measurable way of saying that there is a it was giving bigger kick, like the way the points give you the kick in the game. And then you kept on doing it, and he started taking out the sand from his sand toys. Okay. And to gather more and more dust, it started giving him dopamine hit. And that's exactly what we do with the money. We basically start for a happy life, that we need money, and then we kept on chasing it, and we forget, like, the purpose of money was a happy life, right?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
So that's
objective loss.
exactly
Yeah.
the oblos. Oblos is something that we need to be very, very clear about in our normal lives. And that's the same thing that I want to say to even the founders out there.
Very clear when you
Happy.
started it. Like, always look at the objective. That's the
Yes.
main. Moving on, the last question. So, what is that sort of milestone which you're chasing, Sandeep? Is it number of users? Is it revenue? Is it something completely different? I mean, what is that sort of milestone which you're like, okay, I have to get to here? Like, what is that sort of goal which you're chasing today?
Okay. So the way we are looking at us is that the total number of user interaction is the secondary objective. We won't
Oh,
have an oblos because of this. Okay.
okay.
Okay. So our main objective remains that we would be able to build a platform where more and more users are learning. So one of the key metrics that we look at is how many interactions users have in terms of submission of an exercise, so that we
Mm-hmm.
want to maximize it. And to maximize it, we can do a couple of things. So number one, we can improve existing exercise, we can create more courses, or we can achieve, or we can gain more users. Okay, so we basically have further we have forked it out that this guy is working on gathering more users, this team, and these couple of people are working on this, and so on. That's how
For
getting
your
more users.
work, and what about your personal life? What's that sort of milestone or objective
Oh,
which
then
you're
yeah.
chasing?
Okay, that's okay. That's a good point. I explain to you. So, so I mean, in case of personal life, the personal life is the objective. Okay, personal life is the
Okay.
object, right?
Okay.
And figuring out the things which cause problems in your life is something that I keep an eye for, right? So, like for example, I make sure that me and my wife have at least one tea early in the morning together, together. At least that way we can talk, and we talk a lot. And yes, so in personal life, I make sure that I should at least get that time, that
Correct.
no matter what happens, because it seems, for many people, it seems like aimless. But if you look at closely, that's the only aim human has, right? If
Exactly.
you,
Yeah. 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 Exactly. Yeah.
so I have not seen one person happy if their families are not happy,
Oh
right?
yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Right. So,
Absolutely.
so basically, that's the thing that I might want to make sure that, in the personal life, I want to make sure that, if you ask me, the other metrics could be that I'll lose some weight, but other
That's a common milestone, I guess. Even I want to. But
exactly.
yeah.
I want to make sure that I stay happy. I mean, with my family. So I consciously spend the time. We consciously make sure that we, even if we had fights, we should
Mhm.
at least sit and have tea together. It's completely okay.
Correct.
And
Correct.
I mean, that's you should aim for. Otherwise, you can't be happy without a happy family. You can't be happy.
Absolutely.
I haven't
Absolutely.
seen one person happy. Not a,
Right.
unless you are a psychopath. Yeah.
That's a whole other ball game now. So,
Yeah.
so yeah. Great, Sandeep. It was absolutely incredible interview. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, because
Oh, yeah.
I absolutely had a blast. Guys, I urge you to check out cloudxlab.com. As Sandeep put it in the interview, the courses which he's built are not, something, a skill which he just picked up recently or something. He's been doing data since 2002, like before big data was a thing, before Google was a thing. So that gives you context of the sort of experience which has gone in building uh, this sort of course and this sort of education. I am signing up for the Python course. Maybe let's see if Cloudx Lab is able to make me a Python developer. But yeah, I urge you to check it out. Sandeep, it was
It'll be,
absolutely incredible.
I'll consider it is my personal failure if you don't. Okay.
No, no. So I'm definitely signing up. Let's see, probably after this interview, after I take a small break. But it was absolutely incredible interview. I had a blast.
Okay.
I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Huh?
Yeah. Wonderful set of questions. You are definitely a good prober, I would say. Yeah.
But yeah, and I absolutely, incredible journey from a farmer to a someone who's teaching AI and ML. So it's like a storybook, it's like a storybook sort of journey which you've taken. So absolutely incredible. So thanks a lot, Sandeep.